I'd like to just add a couple more points to what Shelley said. We currently have a bike path on Rodeo Drive. Jefferson Street is extra wide street, so bike accessibility is very good on both of those streets. I don't know how many people have walked up there. I did just the other day. It's relatively flat, that whole area. So at a very easy, leisurely pace, you might be adding 6 minutes to walk around that versus cut through it. I know for myself I could probably use a little extra walk. But yeah, Tim?
Mayor Jane?
Sure.
I've heard a couple of numbers about the length of the street, of Jefferson Street. Mr. Plaskin is suggesting that it's approximately 1,300 feet. There are 6 lots. The average size of the lot on page 2 of the preliminary subdivision plat application suggests that the lots on average are 94.5 by 100. I know the depth is 100, so if the average lot width is 95, then
About 600 feet.
600 feet, which is a huge difference.
Right.
If I may, I believe the reference was from McKinley to Rodeo was 1,300. And I guess Les is over there calculating it or something. I don't know. No, he's not.
Yeah, it's probably.
Any other questions for Scott?
Okay.
Okay,
All
thank
right.
you.
Hey, thank you.
Any other element of rebuttal for this? And you are representing the applicant, is that right?
Well, I'm pro. Is that all right to speak?
Oh, no, actually, we
Okay,
didn't,
I
but
have
this
to
is the
represent-
rebuttal from the
okay.
applicant or the
Sorry.
representatives. Sorry. Okay. Seeing no one else come forward, I'll close the public hearing and open it up to the council for discussion. And Walter, if you'd like to ask Bill your question, please, go ahead.
Consider it asked, Bill.
I'd have to say that I think, as this council is aware, staff has generally been supportive of the requirement of pedestrian or bicycle easements on properties where appropriate. That typically happens at the time that you're considering the overall subdivision plat. You're looking at the street network, you're looking at those travel distances, and you're looking at mitigating the impacts of the development that's being proposed. In this case, that wasn't required. Neither cross-access nor pedestrian easements were required when the Parkview Estates plat was approved by this body about 12 or 13 years ago. In looking at what was being proposed, which was just to subdivide off some 2-family lots on the west side of Jefferson or the east side of the subject property, we did not feel that it was appropriate or the right time to actually ask and require that a pedestrian easement be considered or be required of that applicant. The Planning and Zoning Commission considered it as well and felt that it just at this late stage did not feel like the right action. There certainly was discussion among the Planning and Zoning Commission at their meeting and considering it. Maybe some thought of in the past it would have been nice had they required that, but in light of what was being considered and consideration of the mitigation of the impacts that is being proposed by this application, they didn't feel that requiring an easement across that property was warranted at this time. Certainly staff, I think, has always been supportive of the provision of pedestrian bicycle facilities and will continue to be so, but it didn't appear that this was the right time with this given application.
Tom?
I guess I'm wondering then what is the right time to head off any future requests for development or platting. It's a great idea. Everything about this is a great idea with this tiny little interest that I particularly have. You know, I mean, I grew up in a neighborhood in Delaware that was very similar to this, where we walked down a little path that somebody built, and I don't know if it was privately built or publicly built, and there was a little tiny strip of asphalt that went between the buildings. And all ages, you know, older people, younger people. I took my bike, I walked up to the stores. We all wanted to go to the stores, the Five and Dime, the whatever. The hardware store, yes, I did buy lumber or and other hardware things with my bike or on foot. The older people with they had these little funny baskets with the little tiny wheels, and people used to walk to stores. But people don't walk to stores anymore because everything is car access. Everything is, we're almost required to drive places. And then we have a tiny little potential modification to put an opportunity for people to walk from one place to another. It only has to be 10 feet wide, 8 feet of asphalt, some small little bit with some space on either side, maybe on the southernmost side of the southernmost house. Seems like it would be a really easy thing to add right now, but maybe not, because they've already drawn it, and that's the end of drawing it. That's the end of where we can make modifications. But it feels like it's easier to make the modification now. So I guess my question is, what is the right time? We've got, there are going to be hundreds more requests coming before the city of Moscow in the few years to come to do things differently. How do we fix things? I mean, the council 12, 13 years ago, I guess, didn't think about this. But we have an idea. Maybe it's a good idea. Maybe we should be thinking about enabling people in that neighborhood to walk more and get to that business that might grow in there. So anyway, I'm trying to figure that out.
So you want a response from Bill?
Yeah,
on that?
if I can, that'd be great.
If the council,
it's not a rhetorical question. I
Yeah,
really want to
yeah.
know, how do we do this?
if the council wishes to require, the preliminary plat is the appropriate stage for the council to impose that condition. So that is a option that is available to the council this evening. I would say that it is best served when the city is looking at entire subdivisions, the street network, the pedestrian network, and the block structure that it is establishing and granting an approval to a property owner. That is really the time for the city to be considering that. But in looking at the prior decision, if the council feels that that is something that you feel is warranted and is necessary to mitigate the impacts of subdivision development, which is typically the term that is utilized and is within state statute, by requiring that there be a pedestrian easement or a path constructed. I mean, certainly the preliminary plat stage is the time for that to occur.
Other discussion, Walter?
Bill, if I'm not mistaken, the property being subdivided and the remaining motor business property are owned by one owner at this time.
That's my understanding.
Okay. I would ask if the property owner would stand for a question.
Okay. And be careful to not negotiate, okay?
I'm not negotiating.
All right.
I've never met this man. I don't know.
Don, are
My
you
name's Jim.
reopening the public hearing?
I
It's
was
a
asking
que-
Walter to not negotiate.
it's not a
He
public
just has
hearing.
a substantive question for the owner, is what I'm
A question
presuming.
for the owner, who is the one that would be faced with additional possible pathway because of Ms. Bennett's comments about if you take it 100 feet, then where does it go from there?
Well, that's not substantive. That's public hearing fodder. That was something we should have put forward at the outset of this.
I would hate to see this council vote in a path and not have an answer to what's going to happen to it later.
Okay. Mr. City Acting Attorney.
No, not acting attorney.
And in reopening the public hearing, is that something that
Make a
just...
motion to reopen the
Yeah,
public
I would
hearing.
entertain such, and we need a supermajority to do that, or just a simple?
Majority's
Okay,
fine.
all right. I want to make such a motion, Walter, to reopen the public hearing?
I hate to keep beating this horse, but I still have questions about it. I'm not even sure I would support it if it's before us. But I would make a motion we reopen the public hearing for purposes of exploring this just a little further.
I'll second that.
Okay, Walter's motion, Tom second. We'll start this roll call vote with you, Dan.
Aye.
No.
Aye.
Aye.
No.
Okay, the motion carries. The public hearing, then, I will reopen it for this purpose. Walter, please, first, please identify yourself, your name and address for our record, and your relationship to this consideration tonight.
My name's Jim Gress, and I live temporarily at 323 Julie Drive, and I am half owner of the property, all of it.
Okay, yeah, okay. And my question, if you're willing to answer it, do the owners see any benefit to a pedestrian bike path across that property east to west, considering the 1,300-foot stated distance between Rodeo and McKinley, in that it might serve both an existing business to the south and future businesses to the north, and it's a complex, a compound question. The fact that the northernmost lot is shown in the present plat is larger than the others, and therefore it could be moved to the south to create the space, and any developer, purchaser developer of the remaining motor business would be the one to stand the cost of building a path on over to Highway 95. So my question is, as a property owner developer, is there a possibility that you see any benefit to what's being discussed?
Personally, I don't. We were required to put sidewalks all the way around the subdivision. There's a bicycle path on Rodeo Drive. And in the future, like you're talking about, if you only run it back 100 feet, what does it do then if we sell property? Moscow Building Supply has spoken to us that they possibly would like to buy a little more property.
And that's a little speculation.
It is speculation.
Let's not talk about the
It's-
adjacent owner there, but
oh,
certainly on
okay.
the path issue.
But if it did, they wouldn't want a path there. He's told me that, so. And he really doesn't want a path there now. So personally, I see no, I go by there all the time, and I swear to God, I've never seen anybody walk there other than Moscow Building Supplies, people that couldn't park in their parking lot, their workers.
Thank you.
And that was early in the morning and late in the evening.
Other questions for Mr. Grass in the course of this reopened public hearing? Okay.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate your time. With that, I'm going to close this public hearing, and again for the council's discussion. Wayne?
I think that bicycle and pedestrian paths are very, very beneficial in connecting one neighborhood to the other. This is a situation, however, where I just don't really see the benefit. It's not destination oriented as far as it ends at Main Street. The only opportunity right now would be to get to Moscow Building Supply. I've walked that path, and yeah, it's just a gravel path. It's not one you'd want to ride a bicycle on, in my opinion, because once you get to the end of it, then you're walking through their parking lot between their trucks and between their parked vehicles. I mean, you know, if you want to walk it, that's fine. But it doesn't go anywhere other than to that. And I don't see where it could ever go anywhere other than to Main Street. And I can see where it would cause a problem on development of the future development of that particular property. If Moscow Building Supply, if Pat Garrett decided he wanted to buy property and expand further north, then he would have a problem with a possible, an easement in there that he'd have to put in a sidewalk cutting right through his property. I don't think this is not the appropriate place to put a bicycle path. So I'm not in favor of that.